Hi everyone, this is Liz with Edmund Designs, and today I'm going to show you how I make my basic dolls. And to do this we are going to use a blue fairy as an example. Here are a list of supplies that you'll need, and as you go through the video there may be some variations on this. Okay, so you're going to take an 18-inch long 22 gauge white floral wire. You're going to bend it in half. And then you're going to take your embroidery floss. These come in skeins. And I already have some yarn that I'm going to use instead, that I prefer. And you can find the embroidery floss at Walmart. They have it in the craft section. So you're going to use one for the hair. And here I'm just taking it through a 3/4 of an inch wooden bead, and then I'm applying a little bit of glue so that when I pull it through it's going to stay in place. Then you're going to want to twist a few times to make the neck. You don't want to go too far on this. Bend your wire out. And then I like my arms to be 1 inch and 3/4. I bend it where that ends. And then I'm going to use some jewelry pliers to make sure that is nice and clamped down. I measure again just to make sure that I'm good to go. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side. And instead of bending down, you actually want to bend up. And I do this because it's going to make them level. So the right one gets bent under, the left one gets bent over. And then I'm going to flip her over to kind of show you. Then I'm just making sure that all of those wires are nice and flush. And then I've got an example here. My body usually is about 1 inch of twisting. So you can do shorter. I just like my bodies to be a good length. And then you're going to bend it at about 4.5 inches to make the feet. Some people use beads on the end instead, so you can actually just cut them off at 4.5 inches and place beads if you'd rather do that. I like to make little feet, so I bend and wrap the wire back around. Next, I'm going to wrap it in embroidery floss. I do so many of these that I actually have my skin tone on a cone. I like to use Tacky Glue with a paintbrush, but you can use a glue gun. And then I like to wrap around the tail. And you're just going to wrap up towards the top of the body. I like to apply glue at this intersection and along my arms. You don't need to. You can actually just place glue on where the hands will be. So I'm going to wrap diagonally, and this is going to help start forming the body. And then you're going to wrap around the arms all the way to the end. And you don't have to be super consistent. If you miss some areas, it's not a problem because you're going to be going back the way you came. and that's going to give you your full coverage. And you may have some issues with tangling. By wrapping this string, it wants to kind of curl itself. So that's what you see me doing. I run it down, my hands down along to unwind it. So then I come up around the back of the doll and I start wrapping the neck. Then I'm going to come around the front, or actually around the back, sorry about that, around the waist, and then start wrapping diagonally on the other side. But there's plenty of ways that you can do this. And then we're just going to do the other arm like we did the last one. My string wanted to keep knotting on me, so at some point what I ended up doing was snipping my embroidery thread, which isn't a problem if you have to do this. You don't need one continuous strand to do your doll's body. It's really easy to find places to glue it down and continue wrapping. So don't worry about that if that happens to you. So what I'm going to do is just apply a little bit of glue here. I wrap it around a few times, usually 2. I snip it, and then I actually apply a little bit of glue on top so that that tail lays down. So I'm going to start off like I did last time, and just wrap and hide that tail. So it doesn't really matter if I'm doing the body or if I'm doing the bodice color. I always start wrapping that way. So I like to build up my body a little bit. I don't like mine to be super thin. It's just a matter of preference. But I like to build up the body a little bit before I put on my bodice color. I apply glue down the leg, and just like the arms, you're going to wrap down and then back up. I apply the glue all the way to the ankle, because when I get down to the foot, I take my pliers and open it back up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you 2 different ways to do your feet if you're going to wrap them. This one, you can open it up and just wrap to the end and wrap your way back. And then once you have finished the foot area, simply close it back up. And that's it for that foot. So we're going to wrap up really quick. And I will show you a different method for doing the other foot, which is the method that I typically use when I am making these dolls. The first foot method is what I use on my minis. But for the regular size dolls, which is what we are making right now, I typically use this method. So what you do is open it up like you did the last one. Go ahead and wrap it. You can wrap to the end, but here I decided I didn't actually need to go that far. You just need to make sure that you've covered what will become the tip of the foot. I apply more glue, and then I'm going to wrap over the entire thing. So there you have an entire foot, and that works really well too for boots, or if you want to do little shoes. Mine are typically barefoot. So off camera, I am going to fix that other foot. We'll just quickly wrap up here and glue it at the waist of the doll. I'm just going to wrap it around, apply a little bit of glue, wrap it around twice, cut it, and then apply glue on top. But again, you can be using a hot glue gun at any point. So I've finished the other foot the way I like. I have my flowers picked out, and I have decided to use a matching blue teal color because I want everything about her to be blue. Not quoting lines from an Eiffel 65 song. And I'm going to wrap just like I have been. And then once we get to the arms, we're just going to do the crisscross like we did before. I wrap at a diagonal on one side, and then come under and wrap at a diagonal for the other side. If you notice that your embroidery floss is starting to slip, you can apply more glue. It just depends on what style I am doing. You can even do long sleeves if you'd prefer, or short little cap sleeves by wrapping like we did before. Emily Lefler has some really good videos on different styles, and I will make sure to link her below. I've mentioned her several times. I give the doll just a little pair of shorts under the skirt. It's the way I've seen it done, and I still like them to have some little pants. But if you prefer, you can actually go all the way down to the ankles if you have like a short skirt. Okay, so here is what a flower typically looks like before you've taken it apart. You have a stamen that runs all the way through, and you have this piece on the back that keeps the flower together. So you'll remove that. There will be several layers of petals, and then there will be another piece. Sometimes if the flower is big enough, you may even find 3 of those. And then you layer your flowers essentially inside out with the biggest layer. Now, I actually use these pieces that keep the flowers together. I've already decided on my layers. I'm just making a couple snips to show you another method. So, typically what people do is make the holes bigger in the middle of the flowers. They slide them on in the order that they want, like so. And then they apply a little bit of glue underneath. And then you can glue a few petals down. What I started out doing is I take these and I'm just trying to make the hole inside bigger, because what we're going to do is we're going to slide this on, and this is going to add some support for the skirt. Usually I feed 1 foot through at a time because I want this to be snug on my doll. I don't want to have to use a bunch of glue or worry about it sliding down. So I like it to be nice and tight. So that sometimes requires me twisting it on. And then I would apply glue on the underneath and then glue down my flowers. So that's method number 2. Now I'm going to show you what I do now for the majority of my dolls, especially my bigger dolls. I cut my flowers apart and I shorten them because this particular flower would be way too long on this doll. I'm just kind of making the tips more narrow after I trim them because I want them to lay against my doll in a certain way. So I'm just doing this for every layer that I have planned. And this is also a great way to be able to use up flowers that are too large for the dolls that you're making, or if you want to make a mini and it's a full-size flower. On petals like these, I tend to leave them together, but I decide later to go ahead and cut them individually to fit the look. So I'm going to make this a little bit wider so I can push it a little farther up my doll. I'm going to slide it on. Get it adjusted and make sure I have it in the right place and that it's level so that it's not tilting forward or to one side. And then I'm just going to apply some glue on the bottom. Once that's dry, there are 2 ways you can do this. You can apply your hot glue directly on top and then place your flower. The problem with this is depending on the type of plastic, which for these flowers is different every time, it can melt very quickly. So a lot of times I actually place glue on the tip of the flower and then put it on. That way I'm not using as much glue. I don't have to worry about it running everywhere or, you know, coming out the edges. And I don't have to worry about that plastic piece melting. This one in particular I wouldn't have to worry about, but there are other flowers that I have taken apart and used that does happen. And the nice thing about this is that they're going to layer nicely, just one over the other. And then the petals that want to kind of stick up on their own, I glue those to one another. And you can really shape the skirt this way. If you want a more narrow skirt, and this also gives you the option for multiple colors. If you're just doing one layer, there's just a lot of options here. So now I'm going to take my second layer and I'm just going to do this and we will speed it up. Okay, So now we've skipped ahead and I'm just doing the top layer. And I'm alternating colors here. It just so happened that the petals I had were some variations. And I like having every other one a different color. And then I'm actually wrapping the bodice again because I feel like her waist should come out a bit more and it would fit with the skirt better. But this is an opportunity here where you can actually just add some embellishment to the waist if you wanted. Sometimes I have dolls where I just do a little bit of gold embroidery floss or silver. There's plenty of ribbons and things like that that you could use instead and really make it your own. But I'm just increasing the size of the waist so that it looks more natural and a little bit more like a dress. Once that's finished, we will move on to her hair. And I will put a link for Emily Lefler's tutorial on an updo. Had I realized that's what I was doing, I would have done that first because it would have kept her hair out of the way. So I actually cut the end off mine so that I'm working with a even raw ends. But basically my updo for this is the first half of Emily Lefler's tutorial with a major chunk of it taken out. The reason why is because this is such a thick yarn that this method I'm using here just works better. But she is a good introduction to it. And especially if you're using embroidery floss, you're going to want to do it her way, not the way I'm doing it. And I use hot glue for this, especially updos. You would not want to wait and hold using the tacky glue. So I'm getting ready to twist off my end, and I'm just going to take a scrap piece of my yarn. I'm tying it around the ends because I need them all to stay together. I'm going to trim the ends off of my knot, and then I am trimming very closely to where I wrap that around. What I'm doing is folding it under. So I'm going to put a generous portion of glue, but not too much because it can ooze out. And I'm folding it under and over. And I'm just checking to make sure that it is glued down firmly in all the places. And so that is the updo. Next, I want to add some embellishments. These are from Hobby Lobby. You can find them in the scrapbooking section. And then I have some bigger ones also from Hobby Lobby in the scrapbooking section. I'll try to leave links, but I don't believe I was able to find these on the website. So you may just have to go and take a look around. And I'm just gonna hold them up to kind of see what color I prefer of blue. And then put a dab of glue and put it in place. And then I always like to add one at the waistband. And then I'm just going to take and put a dab of glue there. and put that in place. Now it's time to add some wings. I like to use the greenery from the flower bouquets that I get. I'm just checking to make sure that the size works. And then I will just cut them off and leave the plastic skeleton work on them for some support. You can use a lot of different things for wings. I like to go to the floral department at Hobby Lobby, and they have some butterflies there, and I just pull the wings off. So I do that for a couple different fairies that I've made, but I like the greenery. I think it's really cute. And you just glue them on the back to finish your fairy up. Then I use a small wooden base. I have my stamp on the bottom of it. I don't know if they sell these anymore at Hobby Lobby. I believe the last time I ordered these was off of Amazon. I'll have a link below. I add some glue, hot glue, to the bottom of her feet and just press her down. And then I decided that I wanted to add a wand. So I have here, it is for jewelry. It's just a gold metal pen. And I have some beads from Walmart, their little 99-cent section, which is in their jewelry making section. I'm going to use an E6000 glue for this. Hot glue is not an ideal glue for the metal, and I don't use my crafting tacky glue for it either. I find that the E6000 is the best option for this. And I'm just going to place the two beads on the top to form the wand. With that complete, we're just going to bend her arm. I'm using my jewelry pliers to bend her hand so that she can hold it. And then I'm going to take the wand and I'm going to dip the end of it in the E6000. I find it's more flexible, so I use that for a lot of accessories. And then I actually had to clamp this down off camera because I didn't have a good angle to get it in there right. And there she is. That is your completed fairy. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching. Thank you so much. Remember to subscribe, and she'll be on my Etsy channel. Thanks so much for watching.